Imagine feeling like you're going crazy every time you try to talk about money with someone you're supposed to trust. You're like a partner, maybe a family member. You start questioning your own memory, your decisions, even like your basic grasp on reality when it comes to your own finances. Or maybe you find yourself stuck. You know you need to leave a situation, but you literally can't because you have zero access to money, no control over your own resources at all.
Right. Trapped.
Yeah, exactly. That really confusing, controlling dynamic where your whole financial world feels like it's being warped and honestly weaponized against you.
Yeah.
Well, it actually has a name and is far more common and way more damaging than a lot of people think.
It really is.
So today, our deep dive is into a whole collection of sources that really shine a light on this often hidden problem, financial gaslighting and financial abuse. And we need to be clear that this isn't just, arguing over who spent too much on groceries last week or disagreeing about maybe investment strategies.
Yeah.
It's deeper.
Much deeper.
It's fundamentally about power and control. Using money, using financial information as tools, really, to manipulate someone, to isolate them, and ultimately to trap them.
That's exactly right. And we've pulled together insights from quite a range of perspectives to try and get a really comprehensive view here.
Okay.
Our sources, they include practical guides from organizations really focused on supporting survivors of domestic abuse folks like DVIP of Riverside, victim support over in the UK.
Important resources.
Definitely. And we've also got financial viewpoints from sites like Money Sense, the White Coat Investor blog, which has some powerful stories. Then there are counseling insights from Unveiled Stories, psychological context from North Cap University.
So the why behind it, too.
Exactly. And helpful resource lists from places like the One Love Foundation and savingadvice.com. So it's quite a rich mix of material to dig into.
Absolutely. Sounds like we've got a good cross-section. So our mission today is basically to unpack all of this for you. We want to extract the most important insights so you can walk away with a really clear understanding of what financial gaslighting and abuse actually are. How to recognize the signs, because they can be subtle, right? Or sometimes pretty overt.
Yes. Both.
And critically, what actual steps you can take right now, either for protection, if this is something you're experiencing, or maybe for recovery, if you've come through it. Okay, let's unpack this whole landscape of financial control.
Let's do it. And maybe the best place to start is just laying the groundwork, defining these terms. Because as DVP Riverside and Very Well Mind really emphasize, understanding what we're actually talking about is the absolute first step.
Makes sense.
So financial abuse, as it's defined across these sources, it's essentially controlling a victim's ability to, acquire money, use money, and maintain their own financial resources.
So it's not just being bad with money or careless.
No, not at all. It's not accidental. It's not negligence. It is intentional manipulation. It's restriction. And it's aimed squarely at creating dependency.
And the sources are pretty clear about the purpose behind that control, aren't they? I think Very Well Mind specifically called out its power as a way of keeping someone trapped in a relationship.
Precisely. That fear of financial insecurity. I mean, the very real questions like, how will I survive if I leave? Where could I possibly go? How could I afford anything? That fear, Very Well Mind notes, is a top reason why victims stay in abusive relationships, or, sadly, why they might return. That's
chilling. That practical reality just keeps them stuck.
It does. And Money Sense and Victim Support both place financial abuse firmly under the umbrella of intimate partner violence or domestic abuse. It's part of that pattern. It can happen on its own as a standalone form of abuse, or maybe more commonly, it's kind of interwoven with other forms of control and violence, emotional manipulation, maybe physical threats, or those coercive control tactics designed to just strip away someone's freedom and autonomy in every area of their life.
Money Sense highlighted just how widespread this is too, didn't they? Noting it's often experienced by women. I think they cited something like half of women in shelters in Canada reporting it.
Yes, that statistic is sobering.
But they were also really careful to stress, and this is important, that anyone can be a victim. Doesn't matter about your gender identity, your age, race, income level, education, none of that. Abuse is about power. And financial control is just a tool anyone can use to exert that power.
Absolutely critical point. Now, let's bring in this idea of gaslighting, because it often works hand in glove with financial abuse.
Right, the term itself is fascinating. Where does it come from?
Well, the North Cap University source gives us the origin story. It traces back to a 1938 play called Gaslight.
Gaslight, okay.
In the story, a husband subtly manipulates his wife's environment. Things like He slowly dims the gas lights in their house.
Oh.
And then he just vehemently denies that anything is changing. He tells her she's imagining it, making her question her own senses, her own sanity.
That's chilling, like you said. But it perfectly illustrates the core tactic, doesn't it?
It really does. So gaslighting, as the sources describe it, it's this set of manipulative behaviors specifically designed to make someone doubt their own perception of reality, doubt their memory, doubt their sanity. The sources say it makes you feel confused, maybe like you're going crazy, losing your memory, or just fundamentally wrong about things you know are true.
It sounds incredibly disorienting.
It is. North Cap University defines it as a prolonged, recurring pattern of intentional acts, using deceptive tactics. The whole goal is to persuade the victim that their reality is incorrect and that the abuser's distorted version is the actual truth.
And that leads to damage, obviously.
Ugh. Deep, long-lasting psychological damage. Tactics includes things like questioning your memory of events or conversations you know you had, belittling your skills or abilities, including financial ones, questioning your credibility to other people, creating intense self-doubt, and just consistently disregarding or invalidating your feelings and reactions.
So financial gaslighting is just taking those exact same tactics.
Exactly.
And applying them specifically to money and finances.
Yeah.
Savingadvice.com and Money Sense, we're quite clear on this connection.
Yes, very clear. The manipulator uses gaslighting to make you doubt your own sense of financial reality.
How does that look, practically?
Well, they might outright deny things you know are true about your financial situation. They might deny a specific times, money was spent, or lie about how much income they make, or the total household income, concealing or lying about debts they've racked up, or just distorting the overall state of the finances, maybe claiming you're broke when actually there's plenty of money, or the opposite, claiming everything's fine when there's huge hitting debt.
And it's not just denial, is it? Savingadvice.com mentioned something about questioning your memory of conversations.
Right. They might insist you aren't remembering a financial discussion correctly. They'll claim you agreed to something you absolutely didn't, or just flat out deny a conversation about money ever even happened, even if you remember it vividly, maybe even have notes or something. It's all designed to make you feel like your memory is unreliable, faulty.
Making you second-guess yourself constantly.
Constantly. And they often use finances specifically to make you feel incompetent or crazy. Savingadvice.com calls it weaponizing your emotions around money.
Weaponizing emotions.
Yeah.
By constantly telling you, you're bad with money, you spend too much, you just don't understand how this works, they warp your perception of the truth. They reinforce their own lies. And this conditioning, it's incredibly powerful. It can actually make the victim internalize the abuser's narrative. They start to genuinely believe, yeah, maybe I am the one who's financially incompetent. Maybe I am going crazy. Wow. So this combination, the financial control and the psychological manipulation, it creates this environment where you feel completely powerless, right? Unable to trust your own judgment.
Exactly.
And probably suffering in silence because your whole reality has been so effectively twisted by the abuser.
That's it, precisely. And recognizing this insidious link, this connection between manipulating reality and manipulating money, as DVIP Riverside points out, that recognition is the absolutely crucial first step. It's the first step towards breaking free and eventually reclaiming your financial future.
Okay, that's a really important foundation. Understand the definitions, the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
So with that understanding, let's move into the specific behaviors, the tangible red flags that these sources identify.
Right.
Because this is where we start to see how this control actually shows up in daily life. And this is where it gets, well, really interesting, I suppose, because these signs, they can be quite subtle sometimes, can't they? Especially at first.
They absolutely can. And one of the first ones that Unveiled Stories points out, drawing on work from financial experts like Scott Pape, is a consistent reluctance or maybe even an outright refusal to discuss finances as a couple or as a household unit.
Why is that specifically a red flag? I mean, money talk can be awkward for anyone.
It can be, sure. But open communication and transparency, they're really fundamental in any healthy relationship, wouldn't you say? Especially when your lives and your resources are tangled together.
Yeah, definitely.
So a persistent pattern of avoidance or becoming defensive, maybe irritable, even angry, whenever money topics come up, that can signal something's being hidden.
Oh, okay.
Unveiled Stories suggest it could point to underlying financial insecurity, maybe significant hidden debt the person doesn't want you to know about, or maybe even just a lack of financial literacy that they're trying to cover up by just shutting down the conversation.
Like they feel inadequate, so they just avoid it.
Could be. Savingadvice.com adds it can look like just evading direct questions about income or spending or bills. You ask a simple question and you get a vague answer, or the subject gets changed.
So it's not just a one-off awkward chat about the budget, it's a pattern. A pattern of stonewalling or defensiveness that consistently blocks any shared understanding or collaboration about money.
Exactly. It shows an unwillingness to be transparent or to work together on something that, let's face it, profoundly impacts both partners' lives and their future stability.
Okay, that makes sense. What's another big one?
Well, a massive red flag, and this is highlighted by multiple sources, Money Sense, Very Well Mind, Savingadvice.com, is the abuser controlling all financial access and information.
Right. Taking over completely.
Yes, this is a direct, pretty undeniable form of control designed to make the victim financially helpless. And it can take lots of different forms, like demanding or simply taking a partner's paycheck or any income they receive directly.
So your money isn't even yours once you earn it.
Pretty much. It includes limiting or just outright blocking your access to joint bank accounts, or refusing to add your name to accounts even if it's money you earned or contributed.
Wow. Keeping you completely separate from the household finances.
Totally in the dark. Money Sense specifically mentions the abuser withholding financial information entirely. Things like account balances, investment details, even just when the bills are due. Or they might lie about how much they earn, the true value of assets, or how much debt there actually is. The goal is just to keep the other person completely clueless about their own financial reality.
That sounds terrifyingly isolating.
It is. And one particularly demeaning and controlling tactic highlighted by both Money Sense and Very Well Mind is when the abuser doles out a strict allowance.
An allowance, like a child.
Exactly. Forcing the victim to ask permission every single time they need to spend any money, even for absolute basic necessities. It's a way to infantilize the victim, make them feel powerless, and just reinforce their total dependency on the abuser's so-called generosity.
That's awful. And Very Well Mind also mentioned something about tracking spending.
Yes, requiring the victim to account for every single penny spent, demanding receipts for even tiny purchases, scrutinizing them. It's micromanagement, but weaponized into a form of control. It creates constant anxiety, makes the victim feel perpetually judged, untrustworthy.
Just constant pressure.
Constant. And we see a really powerful illustration of this in that Money Sense article, the one featuring Tara's story.
Oh, right, Tara. What happened there?
Well, she was married to a man who actually worked at a major bank. So he positioned himself as the financial expert, right?
Seems logical on the surface.
Yeah, and she, perhaps trusting his supposed expertise, she handed over her income to him, believing, it was a way to manage their shared future together. But the control kicked in very quickly.
How so?
She was forced to ask him for any money she needed, and she was frequently denied. He withheld all the financial information from her and constantly berated her about her spending.
Even though she gave him her income.
Exactly. And despite the fact that her spending was minimal, mostly just for the family, and despite the fact that he earned significantly more money, this whole pattern just left her with immense anxiety, a plummeting sense of self-worth, because she had absolutely no control, no knowledge about their money.
That story is just,
yeah,
it's a painful example of how giving up that financial control, even if it starts with good intentions, can be completely exploited.
It really is.
And it leads right into the next red flag you mentioned earlier, undermining your financial competence.
Yeah.
Which is classic financial gaslighting in action, isn't it?
Textbook. As Savingadvice.com describes it, manipulators will insist they are better at managing money than you are. And they use this supposed superiority to justify taking complete control. They work really hard to convince you that you are inherently irresponsible with money, that you spend too much, that you just don't understand how things work.
Like planting a seed of doubt in your own mind.
Exactly. Money Sense and Savingadvice.com mention the constant criticism of spending habits, scrutinizing purchases, demanding receipts. These are all ways they reinforce that narrative. You can't handle money, so I have to.
And North Cap University included belittling someone's skills or abilities related to money as a direct gaslighting tactic too, right?
Yes, it's designed specifically to erode your confidence. So eventually you come to believe you need the abuser to manage things for you. You feel incapable on your own.
That doctor's story from the White Coat Investor article seemed like a really harrowing example of this.
Oh, it's incredibly detailed and quite chilling. Her husband, also a physician, earning significantly more. He immediately started telling her she was bad with money and spent too much as soon as they were married, and she, like Tara, gave him control over her finances.
Right from the start.
Right from the start. He would scrutinize credit card statements, questioning every single expense, but then, and this is textbook gaslighting, he would completely switch tactics and yell at her for not spending enough money on clothes for their kids.
Oh. Wait, what? So spending too much, but also not spending enough?
Exactly. This constant contradiction, the constant criticism, making her feel wrong no matter what she did, it led her to internalize his message. She actually describes genuinely thinking, maybe he is right. Maybe I really am bad at money.
That is the absolute core of the manipulation, isn't it? Making you doubt your own judgment, making you feel incapable, so you become totally reliant on the abuser's twisted version of reality and their control.
Absolutely. It's incredibly effective and damaging. Now, another cluster of red flags relates specifically to the abuser's own financial behavior, which is often characterized by instability and really poor management, ironically, despite their claims of being the financial genius.
Oh, the hypocrisy.
Pretty much. Unveiled Stories mentions having excessive debt, for instance, with no apparent plan or effort to manage it or reduce it.
So it's not just having some debt. Lots of people have debt.
Yeah.
It's the pattern of racking up significant debt and showing no willingness to actually deal with it transparently or make a plan to pay it down.
Correct. Unveiled Stories also flags up irregular income or financial instability without having any strategy or plan in place to handle the inevitable ups and downs. You know, life happens.
Yeah, things fluctuate.
Right. And a really common sign is overspending, just living well beyond their means, not saving anything, leading to chronic debt, and just a complete lack of financial security for the future, for the whole family.
Financial infidelity. That was another related one. Unveiled Stories mentioned.
Yes. Hiding spending, secretly taking out loans, maybe even maintaining entirely secret bank accounts or credit cards you know nothing about.
Keeping secrets about money.
Big secrets. And savingadvice.com adds the tactic of constantly claiming to be broke, always needing to borrow money, expecting others, including their partner, to always pay for things, even if you know they have income or assets hidden away somewhere.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. And in some of the most extreme cases, savingadvice.com notes that abusers might actually force their family to go without basic necessities, like food, clothing, heat, all while claiming the family is deep in debt and they have nothing. They manufacture this reality of scarcity to maintain control.
That manufactured scarcity, it not only justifies their control, but it also prevents the victim from ever saving up enough money to actually leave, doesn't it?
Exactly. It reinforces the narrative that the abuser is the only one capable of navigating this supposed financial crisis, which further cements the victim's dependency. It's a vicious cycle.
Okay, what about interfering with work or education? That seems like another really direct way to control someone financially. Sources like Money Sense and Very Well Mind mention this.
Oh, this is a critical piece of the control puzzle, absolutely. It includes actively preventing a partner from working at all, or stopping them from pursuing education or training that could lead to financial independence.
How do they do that?
It might involve pressuring them to quit a job they have, constantly criticizing their chosen career path, minimizing the importance of their income or their skills, basically undermining their professional life.
Making them feel like their contribution doesn't matter.
Right. And Very Well Mind expands on this, including things like actively sabotaging their work responsibilities, maybe intentionally interrupting them constantly if they work from home, or harassing them at their workplace with excessive calls or texts, trying to make them look unprofessional or even get them fired.
That's incredibly malicious.
It really is. It can even involve physically preventing them from getting to work.
Yeah.
Very well. Mine lists examples like hiding the car keys, taking the car, letting the air out of the tires.
Seriously.
Yes. Or agreeing to provide childcare so the partner can go to work and then deliberately just not showing up. Or disappearing with the kids.
Oh my God.
They also mention forcing a partner to work unpaid for a family business, so the business benefits from their labor, but they get no independent income from it.
Keeping them tied financially that way too.
Exactly. And that doctor's story from White Coat Investor again, it provides another really stark illustration here. Early in their marriage, her husband's severe drinking problem made it impossible for her to take really good job opportunities that involved Nate call.
Why?
Because she couldn't rely on him to be sober and capable of looking after the children if she got called out. So his behavior directly limited her career potential.
Wow.
Later, after she actually lost a job she'd created for herself, he deliberately made her apply for unemployment benefits, even though he had a substantial income himself.
Why would he do that?
She understood it was explicitly to punish her, to humiliate her, and to reinforce his narrative that she was incompetent and unable to support herself, even though she was highly educated and perfectly capable.
It's just layer upon layer of control and humiliation.
It is. These actions, they aren't about supporting a partner's success at all. They are deliberate, calculated moves to undermine their ability to earn income and maintain any kind of financial independence.
Okay, another one mentioned was coerced debt. Money Sense highlighted this. What exactly does that involve?
This is a particularly damaging form of abuse. It's where the abuser takes out loans or credit cards or lines of credit in the partner's name, often without their knowledge or consent, or they pressure or trick them into signing for debts they don't understand or don't actually want.
So you end up legally responsible for debt you didn't agree to.
Precisely. This can saddle the victim with huge amounts of debt, ruin their credit score for years, and create really long-lasting financial hardship that makes it incredibly difficult to escape or rebuild their life afterwards.
And the doctor's story touched on this impact too, didn't it?
Yes, her name remained on a very large mortgage after they separated, not by her choice. This forced her to take on significant credit card debt herself just to cover basic living expenses while she was navigating the divorce and the financial fallout. It took her years, she said, to recover from the debt that was accrued during and immediately after the marriage, all due to his actions and the financial mess he left her in.
Just devastating long-term consequences.
Absolutely. And finally, there's a deeply insidious and often overlooked form of control, particularly after separation, and that's using the legal and systemic channels, the very systems designed for justice against the victim.
Using the system itself as a weapon.
Exactly. Money Sense mentions abusers challenging support payments like spousal or child support, even when it's been ordered by a court. They might drag out payments or just refuse to pay as a way to maintain leverage and cause ongoing financial distress.
Keeping that financial control even after they're apart.
Yes. And the White Coat Investor article, particularly in the comments section where survivors shared their own experiences, talks extensively about abusers weaponizing legal proceedings, things like divorce or custody battles.
How so?
They might deliberately drag out the process for years, filing endless motions, refusing to cooperate, forcing continued interaction, exponentially increasing the legal costs for the survivor, and just using the system itself as a way to maintain power and control financially and emotionally long after the relationship is supposedly over.
That sounds like a nightmare. The comments mentioned other tactics too.
Yes, things like manipulating systems by repeatedly and falsely reporting the ex-partner to Child Protective Services or to law enforcement. Another tactic to harass, create huge financial burdens, think legal fees to defend against false claims and just maintain that control.
So it's post-separation abuse, really.
It is, and it often goes unrecognized or isn't well understood by the legal system itself, which just prolongs the trauma and the financial drain on the survivor. All these red flags, when you look at them collectively, they paint a really clear picture. It's a pattern of coercive control centered around money.
Yeah, it's abundantly clear these aren't just bad financial habits or simple disagreements, are they? They're deeply embedded tactics within these patterns of control and manipulation.
Exactly.
And as the sources make really clear, the impact of all these behaviors, it extends far, far beyond your bank balance or your credit score. The effects are profound, they're long-lasting, and they touch pretty much every aspect of a person's well-being.
The emotional and psychological toll is just immense. Victim Support and Money Sense both list severe outcomes like chronic anxiety, debilitating fear, panic attacks, clinical depression. These are common consequences of financial abuse and gaslighting.
It really attacks your mental health.
Fundamentally, low self-esteem and a really crippling lack of confidence are also frequently cited impacts. Victim Support specifically adds feelings of intense guilt and self-blame, noting that the abuser is often very successful at convincing the victim that everything, including all the financial problems, is somehow their fault.
Yeah, we saw that echoed in the doctor's story from White Coat Investor, didn't we? Where she genuinely started to believe she was the one who was bad with money.
Precisely. And loneliness, isolation from support networks. These are also significant consequences mentioned by Victim Support and SavingAdvice.com. Abusers often deliberately work to isolate their victims, cut them off from friends, family, anyone who might offer financial help, or even just emotional support, leaving the victim feeling completely alone, trapped, with nowhere to turn.
Cutting off potential lifelines.
Exactly. And critically, that gaslighting element, it leads to victims intensely doubting their own judgment, their memory, their very sanity. North Cap University, SavingAdvice.com, White Coat Investor, they all emphasize this, describing victims feeling confused, disoriented, like they're going crazy, or just fundamentally broken because their reality has been so consistently denied and distorted by the abuser.
It's like your internal compass is deliberately broken.
That's a good way to put it. And the doctor from White Coat Investor shared a really powerful, poignant detail about her recovery journey. Years after leaving the abusive marriage, years after rebuilding her life, she experienced this visceral trauma response. Intense fear, trembling, panic, just from logging in online to check her credit report.
Wow, years later.
Years later, this wasn't just, typical stress about debt. It was a deep physical manifestation of the psychological trauma inflicted by the financial abuse and the gaslighting she'd endured. It just shows how deeply ingrained the fear and that negative association with financial matters can become.
That visceral reaction really underscores it, doesn't it? This isn't just a financial problem you solve with a budget spreadsheet. It's a deep emotional and psychological wound that needs significant healing.
Absolutely. And beyond that internal impact, there are huge practical difficulties that arise directly from financial abuse.
Like what?
Well, DVIP Riverside points out that having been stripped of financial resources, financial knowledge, and confidence, it significantly hinders a survivor's ability to simply move forward independently. They might lack the funds for housing, for transportation, basic necessities, or they might not even know how to set up a bank account or manage bills because the abuser handled absolutely everything, controlling all the information.
So even basic life skills might feel overwhelming.
They can be. And difficulties at work or in other relationships can also arise, as mentioned by victim support, just due to the chronic stress, the anxiety, the trauma caused by the abuse, trouble sleeping, headaches, other physical symptoms. There are also common manifestations of this kind of prolonged stress, according to victim support.
Your body keeps the score, essentially.
It really does. And the damage credit score, which we've mentioned, frequently highlighted by Money Sense and White Coat Investor, that creates very real, tangible barriers to rebuilding your life.
Yeah.
A poor credit score makes it incredibly difficult to rent an apartment, maybe qualify for certain jobs that require a credit check, or secure necessary loans for things like a car, or maybe going back to school. It just keeps the victim stuck in this cycle of instability.
It closes doors.
It does. And all of these impacts, combined with the fear and the lack of resources, they culminate in the victim feeling utterly stuck. Victim support and Very Well Mind highlight this clearly. The very real fears of financial hardship, homelessness, or being unable to provide for children. These are top reasons why individuals feel completely unable to leave an abusive situation.
And the rising cost of living probably makes that worse.
Absolutely. Victim support notes that rising costs in many areas only exacerbate this fear. It makes the prospect of starting over financially seem even more daunting, maybe even impossible.
It's also so important to remember the impact this has on children, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely vital. Victim support emphasizes that witnessing domestic violence, and that includes seeing these dynamics of financial control, power struggles, manipulation, and other, it can cause significant and lasting issues in children.
What kind of issues?
Things like behavioral problems, maybe aggression, maybe withdrawal, difficulties at school, anxiety, depression, substance abuse issues later in life, even physical symptoms like sleep problems.
Wow. They absorb so much.
They do. Children are incredibly perceptive. They absorb the tension, the fear, the dysfunction in their environment, even if they don't fully understand the complexities of, say, the financial manipulation. Their sense of safety and stability is directly impacted.
Their whole world feels unstable.
Exactly. And finally, several sources, including Money Sense and those personal stories shared in the White Coat Investor comments, they touch on the societal blind spots around financial abuse.
Meaning it's hard for others to see.
Yes. It can be difficult to identify, difficult to intervene, partly because it's not always physically visible, right? And it often occurs within the perceived privacy of a relationship, plus societal norms. Things like traditional patriarchal structures or maybe assumptions about gender roles and finances, they can sometimes make controlling financial behavior seem normal or even responsible.
Like, oh, he just handles the money.
Right. Which creates this really dangerous gray area where controlling behavior can easily bleed into outright abuse, and people might not recognize it or call it out.
And the legal system struggling to catch up, as you mentioned.
Yes, the legal system is often lagging in its understanding and recognition of financial abuse, particularly in those post-separation contexts, which just makes it harder for survivors to find justice or protection. It really underscores how insidious and deeply impactful this form of abuse is. It reaches into every single corner of a person's life, far beyond just their bank balance.
Okay, it's heavy material, definitely. But the good news is, the sources we've looked at also provide concrete, actionable steps for both protection, if you're currently in this situation, and for recovery if you've survived it.
Yes, absolutely.
So what does this all mean then? It means while this situation is incredibly challenging, there are pathways forward. There are ways to start reclaiming your financial independence and begin rebuilding stability and control over your own life.
That's the crucial message. There is hope, and there are practical things you can do.
So what's the very first step? Where do you even begin?
Well, the most crucial first step, emphasized by DVOP, Riverside, and Very Well Mind, is simple, but it's profound. Identification. Just recognizing the signs we've been discussing. Naming what is happening to you as financial abuse or financial gaslighting.
Yeah.
That act of naming it is incredibly empowering.
Why is that so powerful?
Because it shifts the blame. It takes the blame off of you where the abuser has worked so hard to place it and puts it back onto the perpetrator where it belongs.
Ah, okay. It reframes it.
Exactly. And those white coat investor commenters, the survivors, they stress the importance of trusting your gut instincts. If something feels off, if it feels controlling, confusing, wrong about your finances, it probably is. Don't dismiss that feeling.
Trust yourself.
Okay.
What's next, especially if someone is still in the situation?
Prioritizing physical safety is absolutely paramount. Money Sense and Help Guide via One Love, stress planning for safety. This includes taking steps to make sure your communication is private, maybe using a friend's phone, deleting browser history on shared computers, deleting texts that could put you in danger if the abuser finds them.
Practical safety measures.
Yes. Have a plan for where you could go if you need to leave quickly, know who you can call, and obviously if you are in immediate physical danger, don't hesitate. Call emergency services like 911 in the US.
Okay, safety first. Then what about the financial side?
Beyond immediate physical safety, starting to engage with your own finances, even in really small ways, is crucial. MoneySense advises trying to regularly interact with financial institutions yourself, if possible, and safe. Try to find out which accounts exist, what debts are outstanding, what investments you might have, even if you don't have direct access yet.
Gathering information.
Yes. Don't just sign documents without understanding them. Try to gather information discreetly, safely. Knowledge is power here.
Absolutely. And what about getting some money of your own?
That is a pivotal, concrete step recommended by DVIP Riverside and MoneySense. Get your own private money space. Open a separate bank account that the abuser has absolutely no access to, ideally at a completely different bank where they don't have any accounts.
Does that have to be a lot of money?
No, not at all. Look for low-fee or no-fee accounts to make it manageable. MoneySense also suggests getting your own credit card, in your name only if that's feasible. Even if you only start putting very small amounts of money aside, this separate account becomes a lifeline. It's a symbol of your growing autonomy.
Starting point. MoneySense also mentioned protecting shared assets. How does that work if you're still together?
Right. It's possible and safe to do so. They suggest insisting on joint ownership for major assets, like a house. The idea is that loans generally can't be taken out against it without both owners' consent.
Ah, a safeguard.
Potentially. Now, Unveiled Stories had a slightly different take depending on the dynamics, but the consensus in MoneySense leans towards joint ownership, potentially offering transparency if both partners are truly equal and open. However, and this is a big however in abusive situations, just having your name on a joint account or asset doesn't guarantee your safety or your access to it. As we saw with the doctor's mortgage story, control can override ownership on paper.
Right, that's a really important caveat. What about credit?
Knowing your credit status is vital, both for protection now and recovery later. MoneySense strongly advises checking your credit report regularly. Look for any accounts, loans, or debts you don't recognize.
How do you do that?
The Federal Trade Commission, FTC, in the U.S., mentioned by One Love, offers free annual credit reports from each of the 3 major bureaus. And importantly, they have resources for dealing with identity theft if debt has been taken out fraudulently in your name.
Good to know there's help for that.
Definitely. And securing your personal financial info is basic but crucial. Money Sense advises never sharing banking passwords, PINs, online login details, even with a spouse, especially if you suspect abuse. Change passwords frequently. Use strong, unique ones.
Digital security basics. Okay. What if the situation isn't full-blown abuse yet, but there are definite red flags? Is communication still possible?
It's challenging, but Money Sense and Unveiled Stories suggest that if you're in a relationship showing some red flags, open communication is still key if it feels safe. Aiming for regular financial review discussions, maybe annually, like Money Sense suggests, or even that structured weekly check-in, the barefoot date night idea Scott Pig talks about, which Unveiled Stories mentioned.
A dedicated time to talk money.
Right. It can help identify issues early and maybe build financial teamwork. Unveiled Stories suggest framing these talks positively, like, let's plan for our future together, to make them less confrontational. However, and this is critical, if these conversations always turn into arguments, if they lead to defensiveness, or if they make you feel unsafe or unheard, that itself is a significant red flag. Communication attempts shouldn't leave you feeling worse.
That's a really good point. Okay, so those are steps for protection. What about concrete steps for recovery for someone who has left or is planning their exit?
Right. The sources offer a pretty comprehensive path for recovery, too. The very first step, again, after ensuring safety, is to assess your current financial situation thoroughly. Get the lay of the land.
How do you do that when things might be a mess?
DVAP Riverside recommends creating a comprehensive inventory. List all your income sources, even if they're limited right now. List all your expenses, even if they're just estimates to start. List all the debts you know about or suspect exists, and check your credit score. Using checklists, spreadsheets, even just a simple notebook can help organize this. It can feel daunting, but getting that clear picture is actually very empowering.
Facing it head on.
Exactly. Then, planning and building a safety net is essential for independence. Money Sense mentioned setting aside even very small amounts of money saved, maybe in cash somewhere safe, or in that separate secret account if you manage to open one, just to provide a little buffer.
No cushion.
A small cushion to start. Then, building a more substantial emergency fund is a key recovery goal. DVAP Riverside recommends starting to save consistently. Even tiny amounts initially add up. Unveiled Stories suggest aiming for an eventual goal of, say, 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses. That provides a solid buffer against unexpected job loss or other crises down the line.
Okay, saving is key. What about managing day-to-day money?
Creating a realistic budget is crucial for taking back control. DVAP Riverside suggests tailoring it to your specific goals. Maybe paying down debt, maybe saving for a deposit on a rental. Divide your income into clear categories. Needs like housing, food, debts, and savings. They also note that using budgeting apps like Mint or Every Dollar were mentioned can sometimes simplify tracking where the money is going.
Makes sense. Debt is often a huge issue after abuse, right?
Often, yes. Addressing debt is a significant part of recovery for many survivors, especially if the abuser took out debt in their name. Unveiled Stories emphasizes developing a strategic plan to pay down excessive debt, and they offer really important reassurance. Survivors should not feel ashamed of debt incurred during abuse. It's a consequence of the abuser's actions, not a personal failure.
That's crucial to hear.
It really is. They also highlight, look, no one is really taught financial literacy properly in school, so developing these skills now is actually a sign of strength and resilience.
Absolutely. What about income? If someone's been out of work?
Focusing on career growth and skill development is highlighted by DVAP Riverside as absolutely crucial for establishing stable, independent income. This might mean re-entering the workforce after years away. It might mean seeking opportunities to upskill in your current field or exploring job training programs.
Are there specific resources for that?
Yes. DVAP specifically mentions looking for programs designed for survivors of domestic violence. Exploring online education platforms, Coursera, Skillshare, were mentioned to gain new marketable skills. Networking to find job opportunities. They even mention resources like Dress for Success, which provides professional clothing and career support for women.
So there's practical help out there.
There really is. Repairing damaged credit is often another necessary step. Money Sense suggests that once you have a small savings cushion, getting a secured credit card where you put down a deposit can be a good way to start rebuilding your credit score responsibly. And exploring legal options with a professional to contest debts or negative marks on your credit report that resulted from the abuser's actions is also a possibility. Again, those FTC resources on credit reports and identity theft are vital here, as One Love notes.
It sounds like connecting with local resources is really important throughout this.
Absolutely vital. Survivors do not have to navigate this recovery journey alone. DVOP Riverside, Money Sense, One Love, Victim Support, they all point to the existence of free or low-cost options specifically designed to help survivors.
Like what kind of options?
Financial counseling, career counseling, often offered by domestic violence shelters, community-based financial literacy programs, government assistance programs for necessities like food stamps, SNAP, housing assistance, or temporary cash relief, TANF in the U.S. Specific helplines and organizations are listed within these sources for different regions, UK, Canada, U.S.
So reaching out is key. What about legal help?
Legal support is often necessary, particularly during separation or divorce proceedings, and for establishing or enforcing those support payments, spousal or child support. But as we discussed, Money Sense and the White Coat Investor article and comments strongly warn that abusers may try to use the legal system to prolong control and drain the survivor financially.
So choosing your lawyer carefully is important.
Very important. Choosing experienced legal counsel, especially lawyers familiar with abuse dynamics or narcissistic personalities, as suggested in the White Coat Investor comments, can make a big difference. And legal aid services can be an option if cost is a significant barrier.
Okay. It's a lot of steps, but it sounds like a path towards stability.
Building that long-term financial stability is the ultimate goal, yes. DVAP Riverside emphasizes setting ongoing goals. Continue improving your credit score, build your savings, and importantly, be aware of and avoid predatory financial practices, like those high-interest payday loans that can unfortunately trap vulnerable individuals in new cycles of debt.
Good point. And what about the emotional side of recovery?
Just as critical as the financial steps, maybe more so. DVAP, Riverside, and White Coat Investor emphasize connecting with support systems, trusted friends, family, therapists, support groups, sharing your experience, hearing from others who understand, getting validation. It's all essential for healing those emotional and psychological wounds. Remember, you are not alone in this experience.
That message is so important. And therapy itself.
Highlighted as fundamentally crucial. Therapy is vital for healing the deep psychological impact. The trauma, the internalized self-blame, the intense fear that financial abuse and gaslighting instill. The White Coat Investor article explicitly states, it's okay not to be okay after an experience like this. Therapy provides essential tools to dismantle the ingrained fear and those distorted beliefs about yourself and your capabilities. Help Guide, via One Love, also provides detailed guidance on the psychological aspects of leaving abuse and addressing those common survivor thought processes.
It sounds like a holistic approach is needed. Practical steps and emotional healing together.
Exactly. These steps, taken one by one, they can feel overwhelming at first, absolutely, but they provide a clear, actionable path to reclaiming not just financial control, but control over your life and your future.
Recovery is definitely a journey then, isn't it? Probably with setbacks along the way. But it sounds like it's profoundly about reclaiming your power, piece by piece.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. DVAP Riverside suggests exactly that. Every small step you take, whether it's setting that first budget, opening that separate account, learning a new skill, it's an act of reclaiming a part of your autonomy, reclaiming power that was deliberately taken away from you.
And healing that feeling of being bad with money, that must take time too.
Oh, absolutely. It takes time to heal that deep-seated fear and dismantle that feeling. The White Coat Investor article really hammers this point home, acknowledging that the feeling of financial incompetence was exactly the intended outcome of the abuser's manipulation. Recognizing that the feeling itself is a result of the abuse, not some inherent truth about you, that is incredibly freeing.
Seeing it for what it was, a tactic?
Yes, and reframing the past financial struggles, the debt, the lack of resources, that's part of the healing too. The White Coat Investor contributor, the doctor who shared her story, she framed the bet she incurred after leaving as essentially the price she paid. The price for her freedom, her sanity, her safety, her life. It was a necessary cost on the path to survival and recovery.
That's a powerful perspective shift. What about for couples who maybe recognize some of these red flags early on, before it escalates into full abuse? Is there a way to shift things?
Unveiled stories suggest that setting shared financial goals together can potentially help shift the dynamic. Moving from potential conflict towards collaboration, it makes financial discussions purposeful, maybe helping partners become financial teammates, as they put it, rather than adversaries.
Building something together, focusing on the future.
Exactly. And building financial literacy together, maybe reading books, attending workshops, listening to podcasts like this one, as Unveiled Stories also suggests, that can empower both partners. It builds a shared understanding and reduces the potential for one person to leverage knowledge, or a lack of it, as a form of control.
So education and shared goals can be preventative, potentially.
Potentially, yes, if both partners are willing and acting in good faith. And ultimately, remembering that there are dedicated resources specifically designed for survivors, people who understand what you've been through, who have tools and support tailored to this experience, remembering that is a source of immense strength and hope on this journey.
Knowing you don't have to figure it all out alone.
Precisely. Recovery is absolutely possible. Rebuilding financial independence, it's not just about the money itself. It's a powerful way to regain your sense of self, your security, and your ability to thrive completely on your own terms.
So we've taken a really deep dive into this critical topic today, pulling insights from quite a few different sources. We've hopefully clearly defined financial gaslighting and abuse. We've explored a wide range of red flags to help you identify these tactics if they're happening. We've understood the profound impact they have far beyond just the financial side of things. And we've laid out some actionable pathways for both protection and for recovery.
It is complex, definitely. It's often hidden, and it's a deeply damaging form of control. But recognizing it, naming it, that really is the essential first step towards breaking free. And support and resources are available. Taking intentional steps, no matter how small they might feel at first, can absolutely lead to reclaiming your independence, rebuilding stability, and creating a future where you are in control of your own financial destiny.
That's a hopeful note to end on. You know, if that persistent nagging feeling that you're just bad with money constantly makes you doubt your own reality, maybe, just maybe, it's time to pause and question where that feeling truly originated from. What would it feel like instead to trust your own financial instincts?